Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I'm Andrew Musgrove, joined by John Gibson, and it's time for another episode of Let's Talk About. And today's episode is all about Nick Pope. Perfect timing with the imminent arrival of Aaron Ramsdale from Southampton. And the question now is all about Nick Pope's future. Will he stay and fight for his place as Newcastle United's number one, or will he maybe push for a move with a reported interest from Manchester United? More on that in a moment. But first things first, John, welcome back to the podcast. Been a little while. How are you keeping? Are you well?
Well, I'm keeping okay. There's more life in me than there is in Newcastle United at the moment, it would appear. They're frustrating me something horrible. I mean, in the old days under Ashley, it used to be during the season when I got frustrated about Newcastle United. But now, during the season, we do quite well. But in the close season, we've done horrible. I mean, it has been ultra depressing. But let's remain optimistic and hope that the month of August is going to bring us significant signings because we need them. Um, but I'm good. But I would like my club. I mean, I can't believe, and I'm not going to go on a rant, Andrew, so you can be happy about that. But I can't believe the way I felt in May when the season was finished with us having won my first domestic trophy in 70 years and be in the Champions League, and how I feel now as July is becoming August. I mean, it's completely changed without us kicking a ball.
It certainly has. We were full of optimism about the season to come. We called it a transformational summer to come, and all signs pointed to that. It hasn't quite gone to plan, but I'm not going to pass full judgment until the window closes in September, because I still fully believe Newcastle United will give Eddie Howe the players that he needs, simply because they have to. No one can be looking at the current situation and thinking Eddie Howe's got enough to make next season as good as the last. So I'm still confident. Maybe it's blind faith, John, but I'm not going to pass judgment until the window shuts for good. So much to talk about. And as I said, the main purpose of the episode is about Nick Pope / Aaron Ramsdale. But just want to ask your opinion first on Alexander Isak and his want to explore his options. How are you feeling, John? This saga's rumbled on now for more than a week or so. Your take on it and what has to happen now?
Well, I'm sickened by it all. But with hindsight, and hindsight's always a wonderful thing, Andrew, but with hindsight, I'm not surprised. I have felt all of 2025, Isaac's body language has been poor. Now, and I know that he played in the League Cup final and scored the winning goal, but you would rise to the occasion on a one-off occasion like that. But I was talking privately to Supermac because he's been a big name centre forward during the season. I said publicly in a few of my columns, and I think I've mentioned it on your podcast. I felt his body language was poor. And it with the excuse given by the club, and there's always an excuse, is injuries. He is hid behind injuries for how long now? He's supposed to be injured at the moment. Injuries has been his excuse for when he is on top form. He is poetry in motion. He is wonderful. When he says go, he's an absolute joy to watch. Um, but he hasn't been saying go for a while now. Where do we go now? Well, Newcastle have got two choices, and I think it splits the fans. You either say to them, I'm sorry, kid, you signed the contract, and the contract says you've got 3 years to go here, and we're not going to sell you. And you make them stay. On the other hand, you say, hey, you don't want to play for us. Your heart's not in us. Well, we don't want you if you're not fully committed to us and you cash in with as much money as you can get out of Liverpool and rebuild the side. Where do I stand on that? I would make an effort initially, very quickly, to offer a new contract to him, to call his bluff, to say, right, we'll make you the top player, etc., and see if he's willing to bite. I think he wouldn't be willing to bite, but you've got to explore that and hope that Eddie can then do his magic, which is pull him back from the brink the way he did with Anthony Gordon, who looked certain to go and then signed a new contract. I don't think that'll work, but you've got to explore that, and you can explore it very, very quickly indeed. But you've got to explore it because you dare not go down that road. Having gone down that road, if he still said no, I wouldn't hold him to his contract. I would sell him because, and the reason I say that is because the club is bigger than everybody. Yes, that is goes without saying, but also a half-hearted player is no good to you. When you see Isak play with poor body language, when you saw Gordon go through that period after, ironically, Liverpool was supposed to want him go through that, the 50% of the player you require. If his head's turned, then let the rest of his body follow his head out of the building, because he isn't going to be the Isak we know. And sadly, if we've lost that, we may as well get as much as we can. The trouble with that is that there's only a month of the season left. We're up against it time wise. And that is the huge problem. And that is where I'm really annoyed with Isak. If he'd wanted to go, he should have made that apparent a week after this last season ended and gave himself the better chance. Liverpool had went out and bought Intique. Arsenal have gone out and bought their centre forward, etc., etc. Newcastle are running out of time. He should have given it. He owed us that much. I think he owes us more than that, but he owes us that much. We're now against the clock, and against the clock big time, because we haven't got anybody over the line, and we've tried for enough centre forwards and haven't got them over the line so far. It is a very, very, very worrying time. But I don't know at this moment that there's a way back with Isak.
Yeah, I've made my feelings clear on Alexander Isak. I wouldn't even bother offering him a new contract now. I would get the replacement in, get a second striker in. Hopefully it's Wissa and Sesko, and then say to Liverpool.
When I say offer him a contract, the reason I do that, Andrew, is that politically that's clever. Don't give him the situation where he goes to Liverpool and says, well, I was never offered a contract by Newcastle anyway. And I had been promised one up by Amanda, and it never came. And start to put the blame on Newcastle. Offer him the contract and let him turn it down. Then he's burnt his boats in the eyes of the fans. I tell you what he's done with the fans. This guy was legendary status with all the goals he scored. Goals per game, his record 25 last season, 20 this season before, 20 plus. He was legendary. He's burnt his boats. Supermac left Newcastle and still remained a legend. Les Ferdinand left Newcastle and still remained a legend. Why? Because the fans believed those two were pushed out of the club and they didn't particularly want to go. This fella isn't pushed out the club. He's getting himself out the club. He's damaged his reputation. I don't think he'll care, but he's damaged his reputation on Tyneside irrevocably. It's broken down. He will be looked at in a very different way in the future if he does go. And I can't see any other answer. Maybe we'll run out of time. Liverpool will run out of time, although I think now Diaz has gone, they won't. We will run out of time to find replacements. That's the panic. Because we haven't been able to close out a deal for ages. It's been easy to close out Elanga, nobody else wanted. It's easy to close out Ramsdale, nobody else is in as competition. The minute we've got competition, we'll finish second in a 2-horse race this particular summer.
Well, fingers crossed they can get a couple of strikers in. It's going to be so interesting to see how this plays out. But yeah, I like you thinking, John, when it comes to at least offering one. He turns it down, so he looks like the bad guy. But I do think it's going to be very hard for Isak to roll back from this position. Although we have to say he publicly hasn't said anything. He hasn't said he wanted to go. Obviously, this all come from kind of agents working in the background and what have you. But certainly a position Newcastle didn't expect to find themselves in, I don't think, and one to watch. On to the main purpose of this show, then. It is Nick Pope and what the future holds for him. Got some thoughts in from our viewers and listeners as well to get through later in the show. But this all comes, John, at the time that Aaron Ramsdale is travelling, we believe, to Newcastle for a medical. An initial loan fee with an option to buy. The loan fee is £4 million reported. It's going to be really interesting to see the battle for number one once the season kicks off. I mean, let's start with Aaron Ramsdale and that imminent arrival to Newcastle United, 27 years of age, formerly of Arsenal, formerly of Bournemouth, of course, with Eddie Howe, and latterly with Southampton. What's your thoughts on that move, John?
I think I know it's underwhelming to a lot of fans, but I think it's a good move. I think he's 27, is a goalkeeper. I mean, that's you're coming into your prime if you're an outfield player. As a goalkeeper, you've got a lot of time on your side at 27. And let us remember that this kid 2 years ago, this kid was absolutely pulling up trees at Arsenal. And until they decided they could get even better than him, Arteta, and got Reina in. But he had a huge reputation at Arsenal and did very, very well at Arsenal. Uh, Howe knows what he's getting. Howe's got trust in him, and he's got trust in Howe. Howe said this: the most important thing is the players have got to want to come to Newcastle, and a lot haven't recently. But he wants to come to Newcastle. Wissa, by the way, wants to come to Newcastle, so that is a big, big start. I think he will prove to be Ramsdale to be a very good signing. We need to put pressure on Pope. He will do that. And I think, as things stand today, Andrew, Ramsdale is a better signing than Trafford today. Maybe not 2 years down the line because Trafford has got all the potential to become a top goalkeeper. But it's potential. It's not today. Today, Ramsdale has already in the Premier League kept goal. Yes, I know Southampton got relegated, but it wasn't all his fault. He had a very good season. But if you're on Saily, you can't stop everything. But he did magnificently at Arsenal. He's got a lot of. He's used with fighting at the top half of the Premier League because that's what he did when he was with the Gunners. He's got a lot of Premier League experience. Trafford, the season before last, when he played in the Premier League for Burnley, and I know he's a young kid, but they actually had to pull him out and drop him because he was shell shocked. And when they were busy going down, he was shell shocked. He's broken all the records in the Championship. I understand, but that's the Championship. I think Trafford's gonna be a very good goalkeeper. I think Ramsdale, if Ramsdale had a play this season in the Champions League, he would be okay. Would Trafford? Maybe he would, but maybe he won't. He's going to Manchester City again as the backup keeper. Theoretically, a lot of people think Ramsdale's coming here as a backup keeper, but I think he and Pope are starting level, and it may the best man win.
Well, that is the key question, isn't it, regarding Nick Pope's future? Is Ramsdale coming in to steal his spot, or will it be the best man wins on the training pitch? It's going to be really, really interesting to see how this one finishes up. I mean, Nick Pope, 33 years of age, 95 appearances for Newcastle United, 35 clean sheets. We know how good he is as a shot stopper. For me, the best shot stopper in the Premier League. Where he is let down is his inability with the ball at his feet, his lack of lapses of concentration. We saw that against Celtic, for example. He has those brief moments of panic, but then so does Aaron Ramsdale. I don't necessarily think Aaron Ramsdale is an upgrade on Nick Pope. I think he's an upgrade in terms of the ball at his feet. But when you're talking about really what a goalkeeper should be judged upon, that shot stopping ability, Nick Pope is better than him. If we could combine the two, John, we'd have the perfect keeper. But unfortunately, we can't do so. It's going to be so interesting. I mean, for Nick Pope, what do you think he's thinking right now? Because he's had to sit and watch Newcastle chase James Trafford for the best part of the last 2 years. That's gone on. That's ended not in the way Newcastle United hoped it would have done. And then straight away, Newcastle have moved for Aaron Ramsdale. So I would love to know what's going on inside Pope's head.
Well, I think Nick's known for a while that Newcastle United are going to buy a top challenger, someone that could actually take his place, because that's been made obvious. And you've got to have two quality goalkeepers, especially when you're going to spread the load over 4 competitions, including the Champions League. And I mean, Ramsdale comes in, Ramsdale signs this afternoon. We theoretically, temporarily have 6 goalkeepers. But I tell you what, 4 of them aren't even batting. There's a lot of mediocrity under Pope and and Ramsdale, and I say that with absolute utmost respect for Dubravka, who's been a wonderful servant for us, and I'm so grateful for what he's done for us. But he's 37, he's not far off 40, and he's no longer the man he was, and he's no longer going to really put a lot of pressure on Nick Pope for the first team job. Ramsdale's coming up here expecting to be the first team keeper. There's no question about that. He won't leave to be sitting on the bench up here permanently. He may have to in August, but he won't be coming up here to do that permanently. That's the reason he left Arsenal, because he wouldn't sit on the bench under Reina. And so that he is better with his feet. The trouble is now with goalkeepers, Andrew, is that yes, you used to be judged on whether you could stop the ball and how good you were at that, and whether you could come out and collect crosses in a very busy minefield. But now you've got to be able to play like a centre half. You've got to be able to play with your ball at your feet. That was unheard of in the old days. You never did. You just struck it long, out your hands, kick it as far down the field as you can, and let Wyn Davies or Supermac or Big Alan Shearer fight for it on the edge of their penalty area. Not anymore. It is very different. And Nick Pope is an old-fashioned goalkeeper, and I say that with respect. A good shot stopper, but not a ball player. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Nick Pope could well start at Aston Villa, because by the time Ramsdale signs for Newcastle, he's not going to go out, I would suspect, to play in the last game against Spurs this weekend. So he's got 2 home games against 2 Spanish sides to try to move Pope out on the opening day. So I suspect Pope would start at Aston Villa. But Ramsdale will be in pretty quick after that. And Nick Pope has already committed himself when the Trafford thing was going on, and he was getting linked with Leeds United, who are looking for a goalkeeper, to say that he wanted to stay and fight for his place in Newcastle. Certainly that's what Eddie Howe wants. He wants to have 2 goalkeepers. He doesn't want to bring Ramsdale in and suddenly lose Pope, and he's back to what he was, which is having a number 1 goalkeeper, Dubravka, and in a cup, the Greek, who we can't get out the door quick enough, but is very difficult to do, and Ruddy and Gillespie, who are training ground keepers. I mean, they don't come into any thinking of at all starting matches in any of the 4 competitions this season, Ruddy and Gillespie. You wonder why they're both there, to be truthful, Andrew, and not just one of them.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, with the list of names they've got in that position who will leave. I mean, we assume it will be Martin Dubravka, as you say, 36, turning 37 in January. He's often been linked to an exit. Obviously, he had that kind of short, how should I say, Indian summer, didn't he? When Nick Pope got injured last season, but he probably will be the one to leave. You don't think there's any chance that Nick Pope, once Ramsdale arrives, goes, you know what, I'm nearing the end of my career, but I've still got something to offer as a number 1 goalkeeper. I want it to move elsewhere so I can play week in, week out. You don't think there's any chance of that happening from Nick Pope's point of view?
No, I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, if you went to Manchester United, they're talking about still starting with Anune down there. So we go over. If Manchester United want to quick, they'll let them take Dubravka from Newcastle, not Pope, but they won't, of course. But they did once. No, I don't think Nick Pope. He might leave in a year's time, Andrew. If he's lost his position to Ramsdale and he's sitting getting spelks in his bum match after match, he might do that in a year's time, because 34 as a keeper will still not be old. But I don't think he'll go now and he'll be encouraged to stay. And I think he'll believe that he can see off Ramsdale, and that it'll up his game having competition. Because what competition has he had since he come here? He's only had Dubravka. And when I say only, I mean that because it's very late in Dubravka's career here. He has been a joy for us. But we had Dubravka, who was wonderful, and then we had Nick Pope, who was a step up. And now, presumably, Eddie Howe sees the possibility of Ramsdale being the guy that takes us to the next level again. We're always trying to go to the next level. And and certainly I think we've been vulnerable at goalkeeping level when you've just got Nick. He does get injured, and we've got 4 competitions this year, for goodness sake. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for Ramsdale and for Pope over this coming season.
So you're shutting the door on that report in the Sun this morning that
Absolutely,
Newcastle
absolutely,
will potentially,
absolutely.
yeah. So just in case people haven't seen it, Manchester United reportedly eyeing up a £12 million move for Nick Pope. But I think the way I look at it, Eddie Howe wants 2 quality goalkeepers to choose from, and he will have that in Aaron Ramsdale and Nick Pope. Long term, they'll have to bring someone else in, someone a little bit younger, someone better than Ramsdale. But for the season to come, Aaron Ramsdale and Nick Pope, I think, does offer real strength in the goalkeeping department, even if Ramsdale, to many, including me, is a little bit underwhelming. But I'm backing Eddie Howe on this one. With Nick Pope, his contract is up next summer, so you suspect this probably will be the last year at Newcastle United. But as you say, he's going to have opportunities to play. And as you've mentioned there, John, he's probably going to start as number 1 against Aston Villa. So even though you're speaking with a sense of an inevitability that Ramsdale will replace him at some point, just the very fact that we both think he's likely to start against Aston Villa gives Nick Pope a really good chance to stop Ramsdale, doesn't it? And actually lay down a claim and say, everyone might think Ramsdale is going to be number 1 against Liverpool or Leeds the week after, but wait there. I've got 90 minutes here against Villa to say, no, I'm not giving this up without a fight.
Oh, it's his position to lose. There's no question. Interesting, isn't it? Because, it's not so long ago that Pope and Ramsdale were competing to be the backup goalkeeper to Pickford with England, and now they'll be competing to be the Newcastle United goalkeeper, never mind the England goalkeeper. And of course, the long-term feeling is whoever wins that battle between Pope and Ramsdale can get back in the England squad.
Yeah, indeed. I suppose that's kind of the encouragement as well. I mean, I do think Nick Pope's time for England's probably done, but Ramsdale's, I think, has got a chance to be part of that squad, especially for the World Cup. But hopefully Pope believes there's a little bit of a chance, and that kind of takes his performances up even to a greater level. But you mentioned injuries there, John, and that is a worry with Nick Pope. He's got that dodgy shoulder of his. And do you think that's also another reason, alongside his issues with the ball at his feet, that Newcastle have been so intent on bringing in a goalkeeper?
Yes. Absolutely. Because you get exposed. And I mean, we have been a couple of times. I mean, I know it wasn't because of injury, it was through a red card, but when he missed the first League Cup final and we had to have Karius, I mean, Karius was just in the quality of Woody and Gillespie. He was just yesterday's man who had to be today's man and quickly become yesterday's man again. But you've got the problems with the goalkeeper. You've got to have a backup one. I mean, Newcastle being flying by the seat of their pants in 2 positions. They've had no backup to Pope in goal and no backup to Isak at centre forward. And you can't keep going on like that because you will get found out. And they're trying to plug the goalkeeping situation. They tried, ironically, to plug the centre forward situation by having Isak and Iteki and both playing together. And ironically, they probably will be both playing together at St James's Park in the first game at St James's Park this season. Only they'd be playing together for Liverpool instead of for Newcastle. But we've got to get the centre forward thing sorted out. But we have been flying by the seat of our pants at goalkeeper and at centre forward.
Yeah, certainly so. And I mean, that's where we will sign off in a moment, John, because we're going to ask you to deliver your message to the board, to the owners regarding the transfer window and what has to happen in the next few weeks. But I want to read out first off some of the replies I've had on social media regarding Nick Pope. I asked, as I said, on X, people to get in touch, and we've had quite a few people do so. So thank you to everyone who has got back in touch. We've got Rob saying, I think it's 50-50 at the moment. Pope might be a little ahead as he's had more pre-season time with the team, but how knows Ramsdale? So that might be a factor. I think Pope starts the season, but Ramsdale will get a lot of minutes when the competitions kick in. Tim says Pope has been good and made some game-changing saves in many games, but we all know what his weakness is, and I've never seen that highlighted more than the last game against Arsenal. If Howe wants us to play from the back, Pope is not the answer. Tommy says absolutely would not be tempted to sell Nick Pope. His future is this year's number one unless Ramsdale can unseat him. Beyond that, he's 33 with a year left on his deal. Dubravka's 36 and needs to be moved on. Vinny says we shouldn't consider selling him for the fact that Ramsdale needs to prove that he can hold on to that number one spot. Being good with the ball at your feet doesn't immediately earn you the spot. And LP says, assuming that Martin Dubravka is aware, then no, we don't sell Pope. You only have Ramsdale, if you did, is Premier League quality. So a lot of people, as expected, saying keep Nick Pope, which I think Newcastle United will do. He won't be off to Manchester United. I don't think he's going to agitate for a move either, because he will see the opportunity to play in a lot of games. As we said, start the season as Newcastle's number one. His spot to lose. He will back himself as well to take on Aaron Ramsdale, who comes in, John, not with the best of reputations. Obviously left Arsenal under a bit of a cloud. But do you know what? With Ramsdale, I think it's a little bit like Sean Longstaff's end to his time at Newcastle United. Mind absolutely scrambled, not happy because he's not playing. And when he did get opportunities, mistakes crept into his game because he wasn't able to focus. It was always in the back of his mind about his future. Longstaff goes to Leeds now. I think we'll see Longstaff at his best next season because he knows what the future holds, at least for the next couple of years. He's a Premier League player, Premier League starter. And I think the same might happen with Ramsdale as well. You know, we saw at Southampton, he improved on his time or his last kind of period at Arsenal. And I think once a player gets settled and they've got like a real standing, then they are able to concentrate on their game. So I'm confident Ramsdale will improve and prove the doubters wrong. But not a major upgrade on Nick Pope, and that's where I think the encouragement for Pope will come from.
Yeah. I mean, I said right at the start of this podcast, I'm happy with Ramsdale, considering what you can get and what you can't get. He hasn't. Let us remember getting him now for just $4 million, because the deal means you can spread the load of the cash. It means you haven't lost a lot of money for your current negotiations looking for two strikers and a centre half. You haven't put a dent in your money before you get even more money for Isak. So I'm happy with it, and I think he's better than a lot of people perhaps think he would be. Looking casually and seeing him at Southampton and before that at Sheffield United or whatever, you look and you think, oh dear. But at one stage at Arsenal, he looked a terrific goalkeeper, and he looked a potential England regular, a real challenge to Pickford. I think it could turn out to be quietly a good signing. Let us not get carried away. It's the other end of the field where we need good signings, centre forward. But we've waited long enough after Langer to get somebody through the door. Let's get him through the door, but let's carry on and get two strikers. That is so essential that it doesn't bear thinking about, not managing to do that by September the 1st.
Well, the need is probably heightened because the team news is just dropped for Newcastle's latest friendly over in South Korea against the Stars of the K-League. I'll read you the start 11 out, John, and we'll have a podcast later in the day from Lee Wright as well, covering what went on. Starts with Nick Pope in goal. Then you have, I'm going to try and do it in the formation, although it hasn't really helped me out the way they've done it. I assume it's Emil Kraft at right back. Lascelles is a centre-back. He's the captain. Where's the other centre-back in this? Alex Murphy is in there as well. Livramento potentially at left-back. Then you've got Langer on the right. You've got Joe Willock in the middle. Lewis Miley in the middle. Tonali in the middle. Gordon on the right. And Willisula up front. Look, you can only really play Willisula up front because he hasn't got anybody else, which heightens that need to get that centre forward in, I guess.
Oh, absolutely, because Will is not the answer today. Will, by today, I mean this season. He's not the answer at centre forward. You could play Gordon as a false nine there, but you don't want to rattle his cage. Let him play where he wants to play and where he expects to play this season. I mean, that team, I'm almost disinterested. It's a pre-season friendly. It's a matter of getting miles in the legs, and they're playing the weakest side they'll have played so far this pre-season. So yeah, everybody gets a run out, and with the weather out there, there'd be a completely different side second half as well, because nobody wants to go 90 minutes in the strength sapping conditions you've got in Seoul and you had in Singapore. The one, though, as you say, the only thing that team tells us is the need for a centre forward.
40-degree heat, apparently.
Oh,
Alerts have
I
gone
mean,
out on phones saying, be careful, it's warm out there. That's how hot
you
it's been.
just the sweat rolls down your face just thinking about it, doesn't it? And you're not there. But I've been out in those conditions in World Cups and whatever, and it is absolutely frightening. And it becomes almost walking football. You can only run because you know it. After 45 minutes, you're going to get a reprieve. So you've got 90 minutes to put into 45 minutes, and somebody else is going to come out. But they've got to wave the flag, etc., etc. But for goodness sake, let us get the centre forward situation sorted, both with Isak and incoming.
Come on then, John, sign off. If you're sitting across the table from Darren Eales at the moment, and hopefully the new imminent appointment of who will replace him and the sporting director as well, you've got a month left or so of the transfer window to go. What are you saying? What are you saying to Jamie Rubin? What are you saying to the Public Investment Fund?
Yes, I would like to be sitting across the table with the chairman, not with Darren Eales, who's going to leave us at any time soon anyway. And I would just want to say to the chairman, we have absolutely done brilliant. 2 Champions League qualifications, 2 League Cup finals, 1 trophy won. We have punched above our weight, Newcastle United, because of Eddie Howe and because of what people have done on the field. If you have not done well in the last 3 transfer windows, but we all understood why, because of financial fair play, you had an excuse. This summer, you have had no excuse. You have had that taken off your shoulders, and this was supposed to be the season where we blossomed. And what have we had? We've had, can I ask you, I would say to the chairman, what below stairs is terrific. Eddie Howe's terrific, the coaches are terrific, and the squad is limited but terrific. Huge talent in there and huge loyalty and willingness to do well. But what's happened with the executive floor? Every room is empty on the executive floor. Since Amanda was with her husband was effectively CEO before Darren Eales come, and now he's been going for 10 months and it still hasn't happened. You've had Dan Ashworth, you've had Paul Mitchell, and we go into this wonderful transfer window with Eales leaving us he's already sitting in the exit room, and with no chief sporting director. We've took our foot off the accelerator. Get that team right, and Eddie will get the other team right. Who has been negotiating for us this summer? How difficult has it been? Has there been somebody of authority? The other elite clubs are taking advantage of us, and we're getting knocked back. And don't think this hasn't come into Isak's thinking, and don't think it will not seep into the thinking of Bruno and of Tonali and of Gordon. You've got to stop that now. You've got to get players in. You've got to continue the ambition of Newcastle United. You've got to encourage other players who will see Isak leave not to think, well, we'll put our parachutes on and go as well. This isn't quite the way Kevin Keegan said. It's not quite the way it is in the brochure. What has happened to the new stadium? What's happened to the new training ground? We have not made the progress that was promised to fans and promised to Eddie Howe and promised to his squad. That is irrefutable. That is a fact of life. That cannot be defended. It hasn't happened. And this summer, everything has come to a head. Please do not waste August. Please go out there and sort out the Isak and 2 strikers situation. Give us half a chance. We have taken 3 steps forward. Don't let us take 6 back. We aren't expecting the unexpected. We're not asking to win the Premier League in the new season. We're not asking to win the Champions League. We're asking to take little steps forward. We've taken huge steps forward thanks to Eddie and thanks to Eddie's staff and thanks to the players that we had on the field. But this is the first danger we've had since the takeover if the wheels coming off. This is the first sign of danger, not just with the transfer window, but with your best player wanting to leave, but with nothing happening regarding the stadium, nothing happening regarding the training ground, without chief executives all over the place. The executive floor is virtually empty. We have got work to do. We've gone backwards. We also haven't got a voice. There's no link since Amanda from the boardroom to the fans. There's nothing happening. Now, that's all right. If you've got an owner that doesn't want to talk, Abramovich didn't do that at Chelsea. Henry doesn't do that at Liverpool. But there's people in those clubs that did do that. And Chelsea won things all the time. And Liverpool won the Champions League and the Premier League twice. And they had voices and they were making steps forward. We are drifting in seas which are getting a little bit choppy. You have done well since the takeover, Saudis. You have done well. But at the moment, we're drifting. And in drifting, you can see rocks. Let us not fall upon those rocks. We've got a month to put things right in the dressing room and to put things right up on the executive floor. And where's all the great promises about the stadium and about the training ground? What's happened to all that?
Yeah, plenty of questions to be asked, and hopefully we'll get the answers in the not too distant future. But the priority has to be on getting this transfer market back on track, hopefully, at the very least, with 2 or 3 more additions on top of Aaron Ramsdale's imminent arrival. Thank you, John, for popping on to the podcast. Thanks to Saily, our sponsors. It's a new eSIM service app brought to you by the creators of NordVPN. Here you can choose from several affordable eSIM data plans in over 200 destinations. With a Saily eSIM, you'll always have a connection when needed. If you've ever been lost abroad or badly needed a Wi-Fi connection, then you'll understand what a difference a local SIM card can make. An eSIM provides an internet connection wherever you travel and saves you money on roaming fees. You download the app once, away you go. Affordable prices, global and regional plans to save yourself time, avoid scams, you protect your privacy, and you save on your mobile data as well. 24/7 support available should you need it. You can get yourself a discount on your eSIM by clicking the link in the podcast description box. Stay connected and support the podcast. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks to John once again. We'll be back later in the week because we're going to do a very special tribute to Wyn Davies, of course, Newcastle's number 9 during that Fairs Cup triumph. Sadly passed away earlier this month. John wrote a wonderful piece over on chroniclelive.co.uk paying tribute to Wyn. If you haven't read it, go over and take a dig. We'll be bringing you a very special podcast over the weekend all about Wyn Davies, so do look out for that one. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your week, and here's to Newcastle United, hopefully signing some more players and picking up a win in their latest friendly against the K-League Stars. We'll see you guys very soon.